And hello, I am now currently standing inside of Changdeokgung Palace. Changdeokgung Palace, yeah, just had to double make sure that name. And I'm actually standing at the main hall, the main gate. This is the Imjeonjeon Hall, and this is where the king would make most of his decisions. This is where they would accept envoys. If there was a coronation that was going to happen, it happened here. One of the kind of cool things is in front of it, there's a bunch of stones, and those are markers for where people are supposed to be standing by rank. I will say this about this place, like the main reason I came here was to see if I could collect the stamp for my heritage stamp collection and to get my prizes. When I went to what I thought was the place to go collect that, they said that you have to enter into the palace. Here I am inside of it. It's really nice, don't get me wrong. And one of the cool things about this particular palace, this was the favorite palace of the kings and queens of the time. And the main reason being is that there's this garden in the back that's just ginormous. And if you look at it from like Google Maps or whatever, you could see there's a huge garden right in the back. The map on my little cheat sheet thing here shows a huge garden in the back. It's actually so large, it's larger than the palace itself, the grounds. And they actually charge you like more money to get in there. So being that there's no tour, like free tour going on for that right now, I don't think I'm actually gonna do the tour. That would actually raise the price of this place quite a bit. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, it's more expensive to go into the garden than it is to come into here. And it's funny because in order to get into the garden, you have to come in here. So technically I'm taking a loss by not going because it's an extra 5,000 won in order to get into the garden. It was 3,000 won to get into this place. But the weather's not that great and it is autumn right now, so I don't know how well that garden's gonna be looking at this point in time. Who knows, maybe it looks awesome. I remember saying something about chrysanthemums being there right now, so. But aside from that, this place was rebuilt in 1609. It was originally built in 1405. The entire palace was actually burned down by the Japanese during their invasion, and it wasn't until 1610 that they were able to finish rebuilding the entire palace again. After that rebuild, they actually used this as the main palace for the next 270 years. And I say that because Gyeongbokgung, the main palace, was also destroyed by the Japanese during their invasion. This palace was known as the Eastern Palace because this is east of that main palace. Again, like I said, because of the gardens in the back, most of the kings and queens liked coming here and being here instead. At least that's what's written in the literature. Other than that, I mean, admittedly, I hate to be that tourist that's like, man, I can't tell the difference between places. I feel that a lot of this architecture is kind of monotonous in comparison to each other. Like, it's gorgeous, don't get me wrong, it's really pretty, but it's hard to tell the difference between one area and the next. Like, I just came from the shrine and walked over here. I mean, aside from this main hall looking very decadent, right? And the shrine being very humble, it's hard to tell the difference between the architecture. I mean, they're all built at the same time as well, so that kind of makes sense that most of the places look the same. But I do wonder 10 years from now when I'm like watching this video again or looking at my photos, will I be able to tell the difference between Gyeongbokgung and Changdeokgung Palace? Like, that's gonna be a real hard thing for me to try to do. I'm sure that like if there was a Korean expert or like a cultural expert looking at it, he'd be like, oh yeah, or you know, she'd be like, this is so easy. Like, how could you not tell? This has whatever, this many tiers, or the rocks are shaped in this very way. Okay, so I mean, a cheat sheet for me is that they wrote, this is the only palace that has the markers at the main hall. And I'm like trying to remember, I don't believe there were any markers at Gyeongbokgung Palace. So I think Gung at the very end means palace. That's just my guess, seeing how that's at the end of every palace that I go to. That being said, going back to it, if I could remember that this palace has the markers and the other palace doesn't, whenever I look at photos, I might be able to tell the difference. But that's what I'm talking about. It's those little inferences that you need to like be able to see. And then you could go, oh, that's what makes that palace unique. Because the roofing, all the like pillars, everything to me looks kind of the same. And if it wasn't for that heritage stamp that I'm coming here for, I think this place is okay for me to skip in a weird sense. I don't feel that this place is any better than the other palace, with the exception of if I was actually going to do the gardens. Like if the weather was nice today, I'd probably just go into the gardens and spend the extra 5,000 won. We'll see. The path that they lead you on in here is a direct path to the gardens, but I was reading a lot about how the gardens are actually closed, or they don't allow like foreign tourists. Like they've canceled all the guided tours. We'll see what happens. I'm saying no right now, but maybe when I get there, I'll change my mind. I don't know. Anyhow, that's enough of me babbling. I'm gonna go walk around a little bit more to check out what else there is to see, and I'll be back in a moment. And I just finished talking to the cafe people that do the heritage stamp thing. Kind of sucks. So even though the book says that it's 1, 3, or all of them, the cafe actually had another rule book that they've updated to, and my book was not updated to those rules. So it's actually 1, 10, or all of them. So being that I'm at 7 and I plan on going to Jeju and getting at least a few more, I think I'm gonna have to try to do this to where I go to Jeju and then I do everything, and when I come back, there is a cafe at the Incheon airport that I will try to go to and designate to enjoy archery game with the Crown Prince. It's interesting. Sorry, there's a sign here that says that the area that I'm in has an AR game that you could download. So behind me, you could download an AR game and you take a photo of this area, and then you could have an archery game against the Crown Prince, is what it said. I don't know which Crown Prince, but a Crown Prince. So that's kind of neat. But anyhow, back to what I was saying. I have to go to Incheon Airport actually 2 days in a row, which is kind of silly. But the first day is to go get my COVID test to come back to America, and the second day is to actually fly back to America. So that being said, we'll go ahead and go to Jeju, collect a few more stamps, and if that doesn't work, and if I don't get enough, like if I only get 2 because I'm at 7 and I need 10, if I only get 2, I could stop by the Changdeokgung Palace again and see if there's a stamp on the outside near the ticketing gate, like there was at this palace. So that way I could get at least 1 more stamp there. I think I'm almost there. I think I could do it. I think it could happen. So we'll see. It was kind of a surprise to me because, like I said, the book says one thing, but it wasn't a book over there. It was a poster that they had for the challenge. So yeah. Anyhow, I'm gonna walk around a little bit more. It looks like there's a few more things for me to see around here, so we'll go check that out, and then I think I'm gonna call it a day. I might hit up the Changdeokgung Palace on the way home because it's right next to this palace, right? This is the Eastern Palace. But other than that, I think I'm gonna turn in early tonight to go home and pack for tomorrow's flight out to Jeju. Yeah, I'm gonna not only make sure that happens, but I need to make sure everything is in proper order so that I'm not getting screwed out here, hopefully. Fingers crossed that everything works out well. So we'll check back in a moment. And I am standing in front of Changdeokgung Complex. It was created for King Haenjeon. It was a living quarters. It was created for him to live, but it was also created for him to be able to take in concubines because his queen wasn't able to provide him a son and heir to the throne. I think I called it wrong. I said Deokseongjun. It's Nakseongjun with an N. And one of the important things about that residence is the fact that it was created in a very simplistic manner on purpose. And that purpose was the fact that he liked the way that European architecture and styles were. And so when he created it, or had it created, he made sure that there was no intricate paintings on the walls or any of the kind of traditional Korean looking wall paintings. I'm trying to remember the name. There's an actual name for it, but I was gonna say wallpaper, but that's not it. So it was just the wall paintings that he didn't want on there. He wanted to keep it very simple, very plain, and that was to kind of mimic a European style. That being said, it's like very, very humble in comparison to it's the bright and vibrant colors of the other buildings here, like the throne hall that I was just looking at. And that's kind of one of those things where it's like, cool, okay, they have that here. But in a weird way, I'm thinking about Jeonju right now and how the Confucianism school there, as well as the palace that was there, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was the palace that was there. Looked very similar to this. So still trying to make those comparisons so that I could, definitively say which is which, but it definitely is hard. And you know, I'm definitely no expert, and with no tour guide, it's really difficult to really distinguish what maybe some of the finer details are for the buildings. Kind of like in, again, to bring up Jeonju again, that palace there had turtles on the walls. They look like coffee beans, but that was in hopes to make sure that those buildings didn't burn down because turtles live in water. Yeah, I mean, everything here is pretty awesome though. That is one thing, and it's massive. The complex is like huge, so there's a lot of walking. Anyhow, I'm gonna go check out whatever is behind me now. Looks like the Changdeokgung and vicinity is what it's called. And yeah, we'll see what's going on. Oh, look, we have an emperor and his concubine maybe walking by. Concubines, there's 4 of them, so it's funny. It's actually all 5 of them. 6 of them are girls, so they're just having a good time dressing up. Maybe I'll do that one of these days. I do have like a week to do stuff once I get back from Jeju here in Seoul. Less than that, technically, because 2 days have to go to Incheon, 1 for the airport to leave and 1 for the airport for COVID. So we'll check back in a moment here. So I have just exited Changdeokgung, and I'm reading the info board because the names are too crazy for me. This building was actually the home for Crown Prince Hyunmung, the eldest son of King Sunjo, and he lived here and had all his books and residence and everything stored here, all his belongings stored here. This is what he treated as his palace, and he liked it because it was right outside the secret garden entrance. It's actually the largest building in the vicinity, aside from the hall, like the Imjin Hall, I think that was what it was called, the Royal Hall. But I could totally understand why he would want to live there, because you could literally just hop out and walk over to the garden, no problem. But one of the bigger things was that the Japanese really liked using it during their time that they were here as well. So that actually made for a nice location for them. And I kind of wonder, it didn't have anything noting about how it burned down at some point in time and had to have been rebuilt. So if the Japanese liked it enough, maybe they left it intact and it's actually the original building. I don't know, but it is quite nice, and I think living there would have been pretty cool. So, all right, so now we're going to Daejeon, and this is actually the Queen's residence. So the Queen used to live here. It is fantastic looking. You know, I don't understand how they measure the buildings here, because I was just at the Crown Prince's building and I'm looking at this right now and I'm like, how is this smaller than the Crown Prince's building? Like, this looks so much larger. Maybe there's something about the scale or something about the inside, or how many people actually lived in the building, or how many people were actually there. Yeah, I'm gonna go look for an info board. All I got was the fact that from the name, the Daejeon, is that at the very beginning they said that this is where the Queen lived and the King lived in another building. So, but yeah, check back in a moment. And I'm back. And now I know why the Queen's quarters to me seem so large. It's because it's in combination with the King's quarters. They're connected via a bridge, but they have their own ondol system, which makes them 2 separate buildings apparently. The King's residence is Hwijongdang, and that's right behind me right now. It's really cool looking. Inside is actually like huge. That's one of the bigger parts. Now, it's not as big as the complex that the prince lived in. Definitely now. Now that I've walked around both, I can clearly see that because this is 2 people's residences and that was 1 person's residence. That's why that building was so large in comparison to these ones. This is split into 2. The front half is the King's residence and the back half is the Queen's residence. But there are these little kind of like walkway bridges that connect the buildings together, and thus I thought it was all one building, but apparently because they have separate ondol floor systems, they're considered 2 different buildings. But yeah, that's I mean, that totally makes sense now. And I will say that there's just one little break off building right here next to the main hall that I need to go see. But other than that, I've pretty much seen the entire palace now, and it's worth the 3,000 to get in if you've never been to one of these palaces before. But if you've actually been to like Changdeokgung Palace, I would say you could skip this one and not realize that you missed anything. The main thing is, I don't want this video to be a downer. I don't want to talk bad about any place, right? This place is still fantastic. There's a lot of renovations going on. You know, they could really use the money. And I'm sure if you're gonna go see the garden, this would probably be like the place to be. But other than that, it looks like every other palace to me. So again, I don't want to be that downer, but this is not one of the ones that I think is like required to see in order to say you saw Korea. I feel that if you skip this place, you wouldn't be missing out on much. Definitely don't skip out on Gyeongbokgung though. That one is like a must. And so, yeah, that's it for me here. I'm just gonna get a little bit more B-roll and a few more shots, and then I'm gonna see how far Gyeongbokgung is to see if I should just stop there real quick on my way home. And that's it for this palace. That's it for this video. I will see you in the next one.